when you stop being angry at your family, at your past, you become a better human being. So your impact on others will be just beautiful. I mean, if you on your own, you're happy, your partner is going to be happy, your children are going to be happy, your friends, like it just takes one person, like to change maybe the entire mood of a room, being like, hey, how are you? Like all smiling and everything. So I do feel and I truly believe that investing in yourself, understanding yourself, healing yourself is a gift not only for you, but for the collective. Because so many people are still angry and blaming and complaining and not taking ownership, not being responsible. And I refuse to be part of that world, like I want to be in the solution world, it's a positive one where I'm not perfect, not at all, but at least I'm doing my best, like to be at peace with who I am, with what I'm doing, with everything that I've been through, because we all go through things. And I refuse to use my story as an excuse of being a jerk.
This is the Conscious Economics Podcast, and I'm your host, Rhiannon Roseland. This is the place where we explore people, planet, profit, and art through the lens of the new economy. If you're interested in changing yourself, getting more creative, or changing the system at large, then this is the podcast for you. Tune in every other week as we explore these topics with amazing guests. We'll go deep, we'll go heart-centered and soul-felt as we go into how we change ourselves and change the world. Hello, Conscious Economics family. I'm so glad you're back for another episode. Before I get started, I just want to make a little shout out to everyone who is local in the Toronto or Greater Toronto area. We are hosting an incredible event on March 28th. This is part of our Heartwork project, which I've spoken about on the podcast before. It's all around advancing diverse women in leadership, and we are looking at that issue through the lens of conscious economics. So really focusing on emotions, on generational patterning and traumas and how they're impacting women at work. And so we have been on this really deep process over the last 3 years. We started out with research nationally across the country, speaking to women, really understanding their stories, their truth, why they are choosing to opt out of leadership positions. And then we co-collaborated with many community and corporate organizations using a design thinking model in order to create solutions. And so on March 28th, we are going to be gathering in Toronto. Tickets are available on our website if you go to consciouseconomics.ca. We'd love to have you out. We'd love to have you there. And so with that, I want to segue into our incredible episode for today. This was definitely a favorite of mine. Marine Sélénée is a family constellations therapist, author, and a speaker. So Marine brings the transformative power of family constellations to help heal people from family wounds and find individual blocks rooted in the family system. Her clients are able to get to the root of their pain in order to not only heal themselves, but the generations before and after them. Obviously, in listening to this podcast now, as many of you do, you know that this is such an interesting modality and ties in so deeply to our philosophy at Conscious Economics, because we really believe that as we heal ourselves and we look at our individual blocks, traumas, and subconscious and limiting beliefs, when we start there, that is actually how we heal the collective. That's how we heal the economy. That's how we transform our institutions and greater systems. So Marine offers one-on-one virtual sessions, and her online courses provide powerful healing modules. You can also read her work in her book, Connected Fates, Separate Destinies, published by Hay House. She also facilitates retreats and workshops and speaks at conferences all around the world. I'm really manifesting having her come to Canada and do something with us at some point. She's also one of the featured experts as part of our Mindfulness and Money program. So she's really going to give us a sense today of what family constellations therapy is all about, how the modality can be used, specifically when we look at our relationship to money and business as entrepreneurs. And so I just love her, and I'm so excited for you to check out this episode with Marine Sélénée. Hi, Marine. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. And so, just to anchor you into the show for a minute, I always like to tell people why I wanted them to be on the show. And so, for me, obviously, we had a mutual incredible friend that introduced us. And then I was so fascinated. I'd never heard of Family Constellations, which you'll explain in a moment. So, I booked a session with you. And it was profound. And on top of that, just you yourself as a leader, as a woman, as someone that I just instantly admired. And so this show is about having new economy, conscious economy leaders that are really doing different things in the world toward collective consciousness, collective healing. And you definitely fit the bill. So it's such an honor for me to have you here today. I admire your work so much and know firsthand in working to you how impactful it is. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And to start off, I'd love for you to tell our audience who you are and how did this come to be that you started to do this very, very sacred and important work?
Thank you so much for your trust. And the admiration is mutual, actually. But long story short, I am Marine Sélénée. I was born and raised in France, and it's been almost 15 years now in the United States. And that's when I moved to Miami that I discovered Family Constellations. And after studying psychology, because I was going to become a psychologist, but then I decided to move to the United States, I just fell in love with that modality. Because on a personal level, Family Constellations offered me all the answers that I was looking for, like for the past years in my life. And it was delivered so humbly, like honestly, like there was no fuss, like nothing huge, like it was simple, but in the meantime, so powerful. And I felt in charge of my life for the first time. I was like, wow, I got the power to decide and to be responsible for what I want in my life. And I have the right to break free from my family patterns, writing a different story. And this truly created such a beautiful ripple effect, not only on my personal life, but also on my professional one, because then I've decided to dedicate my career to Family Constellations. Family Constellations, in a nutshell, it's all about understanding your family story, how it has been on a subconscious level impacting you in your current life.
So big. You say it so simply, but it's so big. It really is. One of the things that still I think back on from my sessions with you, and it's something that you said to me, and it just totally changed my perception. And so, just to kind of set it up for the audience for a moment, I think many of us that are listening to this show in particular are doing the work in some way. So, we are taking responsibility for ourselves. Many of us are acknowledging the trauma or patterns that we have been raised with. And that's not just through our family, but also collectively. Look at the world that we're in right now. So no matter what, no matter who you are, you can't escape that we have been raised in a system that has definitely left us traumatized and disconnected from our true essence, our true self. And many of us and many of the people that I work with in our community, they feel as though they are the first in their family to do the work and to take responsibility and accountability, and they do not want to pass it on to the next generation. And so there is this feeling of almost having to heal the line or heal the lineage. And this was where you brought such an interesting perspective to me, because I really felt like this work that I was doing was so I was healing everyone and everything. And you corrected me and you said that no, my job is just my own life. My job is my own self. And I am not responsible to heal anyone, any of my ancestors, anyone else. It's enough to do what I need to do here. And I literally felt a physical feeling happen after you shared that information. I felt something lift off of my neck, off of my back, and I started to to, in my own practice, root into the truth of what you said. And I think this is mind blowing for those of us that are in the work and feel as though like we got to break the cycle or we're breaking the chain and all the pressure is on us. So I'd love if you could just speak to that for a minute for everyone.
A beautiful, beautiful question, actually, because so many of my clients come to me like, Marine, I am here to save my family. I am here to heal my mother, my father, my brother, and I was guilty. At some point, I thought, that it was my, place and role to heal, for example, my brother, or save my father. But the thing is, as kind as it is, that you want to help your family, like your loved ones, there is also a judgment towards them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, oh, you cannot do it. So, maybe I see you as weak. Don't worry, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, no matter what, not respecting their own destinies. I mean, we are all doing our best. And I think the most powerful and useful thing, that you could do for your family, for your community, is to take care of yourself and lead as an example.
Yes.
As an example, you will have such a beautiful impact, like on others. And maybe they're going to start admiring you or like, oh my God, I'm so inspired, like by you.
Mm-hmm.
I just want also to explore, my own patterns and situations. And so your own healing, of course, might have an impact on others. And in family constellations, we say it has an impact on 7 generations at least.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 before you and 3 after you. However, you don't know how they're going to react and behave. Maybe they're still going to be like, you know what? Yeah, thank you so much, but I'm not interested, in diving deeper into that subject. And here, I think it is very important to respect where the person in front of you is at the moment.
Mm.
Because you cannot help anyone if they don't want to be helped.
So true.
So you were saying, I'm very cautious with that, like, oh, I am the one doing the work. Like, nobody asked you to do the work.
Exactly.
I mean, you're doing it for you. Because if you're doing it for anyone else, like your healing is not even a healing. It comes from your ego place, and you're not going to heal in a way of empowering yourself, being at peace with yourself, but hoping that mom and dad are going to follow you and basically telling you, oh, yes, you're all right, my daughter.
Yeah. It's just a form of manipulation. And I can say that so groundedly because I was doing that for quite a long time in my own life. And one sort of caveat is that obviously on this particular show, we talk a lot about how our inner work and our inner healing and our inner trauma influence society at large and our economic systems and our business systems. And one of the ways that I see this show up in the incorrect way that you just articulated, where we're doing it because we actually have an agenda where we want our mother or our father or somebody to see or heal or change or whatever it is, and the ego is involved. So I myself, speaking from my own personal experience, and many listeners on the show know I had a lot of trauma in my life. And one of the ways that I thought I was breaking the chain was to stay married, have a good job, was to own a home, was to receive award and accolade for the work that I would do. And in my mind, before doing any of my healing work or self-facing, I convinced myself that that was me breaking the chain. And because it was so different than what my family had experienced, I masked my own addiction, all the same tendencies that were in households. So like problems with money, distraction, not, nourishing myself properly, all the things, but just masked in something that society deemed as successful. Because if you have a good job, you've made it somehow. And when I finally made it to that point and actually was so deeply unfulfilled and truly sick emotionally, spiritually, and physically, that was the wake up call to be like, oh, wow, I did all of this. And really, like, so much of it was to prove something or to be seen by, parents who didn't see me growing up and all of the things. So I bring that up because I think a lot of us here, especially those of us that grew up with, a certain socioeconomic status where our families struggled or single mothers or whatever else, we start to attribute society's value of success as our way of breaking the chain. But the real chain chains are breaking the chains of trauma that keep you anything away from your authentic peace and sovereignty and truth and all of these other things. And you can hear my voice changing when I say it because it's so much of a deeper liberation. So thank you so much for that.
No, thank you for sharing your story, because I think your example can also help others to be like, oh, hold on a minute. Maybe also that's what I've been doing, like by, I don't know, taking over the law firm of my dad. Well, actually, I would love to open a bakery. But I felt, the pressure, of doing it from my family, because you just have to know one thing. And I think it's the most important thing for me to understand is we all want to belong.
Yes.
Like you were saying, like you wanted to be seen by your parents. So
Mm-hmm.
you found a way to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a way to be seen by them, not by you.
Exactly.
And as an adult, this can create tensions within yourself. And so anxiety, addictions, emotional issues, and so on. So always ask yourself if it can be helpful for any of our listeners, like, how am I belonging right now? Is it in regard to my parents' love and to be seen, acknowledged, recognized? Or is it for me?
So powerful. So powerful. I love you. So I want to know, because obviously we're in a really challenging time right now in the world. Like, I would argue the most challenging time. So many different pieces to consider, so many systems really crumbling before our eyes, including the degradation of our planet. And so with that said, I wonder if you are seeing particular trends. I know you have many, many clients from many different walks. I wonder if there's particular trends or patterns of things that you're seeing of the people who feel called to do this work, particularly with family constellations.
So I would say, and you are right, actually. Like, thank you so much for your questions. Like, I would say for the past 6 months, 1 year, new clients come to me in order to become their true self. Like, I want to take off the mask. I want to understand what I've been doing on behalf of my mom or my dad or my siblings, like, and why I still feel blocked or stuck, like I'm not moving forward. So I
Mm-hmm.
think right now there is a need, there is a desire to embrace your true self. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it's really like, I want to know myself. I want to understand myself, and not through the lens of my family or my parents, but really like, who am I? And yesterday, for example, I had a new client, and that woman is 70 years old.
Wow.
And I love that, because it is so brave, to be
Yes.
like, you know what? Maybe I could do better with the rest of my life, And long story short, like for 70 years, she has been running away from herself.
Mm,
And finally, she's like, hold on. So for me, that's a trend, because, like we're saying, and the world right now is at loss.
mhm,
Like, we don't know who we are. We don't know where to go. It's the unknown. We don't know
mm,
what's going to happen tomorrow. And
mhm,
these can create such anxiety
mm,
and triggering, former trauma. So really take care of yourself. Very, very important. But I think we have that need now to feel more grounded. It is so airy, like, again, unstable, that I think as a human being, we need to ground ourselves. We need to become more animal in a way, like more
mhm.
intuitive, like we have been, I think, creating more communities, like yours, for example. We finally understand that we need others.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think this is beautiful.
So much of what you just shared, I mean, my eyes just welled up with tears when you told me about the 70-year-old brave soul, because yes, this is the era that we're entering into right now. And obviously, astrologically speaking, moving into this Aquarian age with Pluto transiting into Aquarius. And it's interesting, though, to look at it through the lens of what you just said, because as Pluto has gone through Capricorn, which is the patriarchy, which is the traditional structure, which is finding self through this traditional value system and awards and accolades and cars and money and the father and the mother. And now we're coming into this thing where in Aquarius, anything goes. The eccentricity of you is what the value proposition is. And the sublime innovation and the pointy edge of progress and the quickness and the speed of it is we're already feeling it. Like I've been revving up this last couple of weeks where I've had to go out and like hug trees and just try to ground my energy because it is whoop, 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 whoop. Like that's just the energy of what is here. And so for those that are listening, like it's so fascinating to hear how in your practice, this is showing up like in that exact way. It's fascinating to me. I wonder if we can talk a little bit about how family constellations can support business leaders and entrepreneurs specifically.
So, my entrepreneurs, my self employed people, the first rule, the first advice is you have to be at peace with your parents.
Mm,
I'm not talking about love here. I'm only talking about peace and respect and acceptance because your family system is your first system. So it is going to follow you anywhere. And so then the work system is going to, in a way, collaborate, with your family system in order to heal a few things that you may have not understood, like or with your parents slash your family. Your relationship with your mom is the relationship with your company. And the relationship with your dad is a relationship with your hierarchy. So
mm,
if you are an entrepreneur, you are going to give birth to your own company and in the meantime representing the hierarchy.
mm,
If, for example, you have not received from your mom the gift of life, you may struggle of receiving from success and abundance.
mm,
If you have a difficult relationship with your dad in terms of trusting yourself, having confidence, not being afraid of ask, for what you need, again, you might struggle in your business, for example, to have prices, that are, like your skills and your talent, for example. So the first step is really to be at ease, like with your parents. That's the
mm,
first thing first. Then, of course, I would always recommend you to take a look on what did your parents do for a living, your grandparents, even maybe your great grandparents, if anyone went bankruptcy or lost a ton of money or got betrayed by your partner, like just look
mm-hmm,
at different stories, like so then you can just recognize all of them and it won't happen through your own business because again the family system is always looking for reparation. So if anything happened in the work system of your family system, you might repeat the same situation, not because you want it, but again, because you want to belong.
wow.
So, that's where, I love helping businesses. And I used to do organizational workshops, like for companies or helping entrepreneurs because I think actually, when you do everything possible, when you work hard and you cannot see, like, I don't know, great income, like great success, clients flowing to you, you're like, what am I doing wrong? But I don't think actually there is anything that you are doing wrong. It's just your story still preventing you, like from really, yes, I deserve success. Yes, I receive from abundance. I mean, you want to be successful, you want to be abundant. My only question for you is right now, do you receive the gift of life from your parents?
Mm, 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 mm.
Because if you're at war with them, you are not going to be successful or abundant, or at least you're not going to keep that success and that abundance on the long term.
And so, and first of all, this is the best. I'm having so much fun. And this is so interesting and so resonant. And number two, just to articulate that piece, because for those that are listening, to receive the gift of life from your parents. And I've been doing this specific work. And what I didn't really realize or what I didn't recognize, like if I had heard you say that even just a few months ago, I don't know that I would have understood exactly what you mean. And what I do understand now is that just by them being my parents, never mind not giving me anything, my father left me like 2 weeks after I was born, don't have a relationship, but just that gift of life and just honoring and valuing that and letting them be who they are, messy if it is, whatever it is, their patterns, their stories, it's okay, because the most important thing that I received, they gave me, and that's being here and having this incarnation.
Exactly.
So in that gratitude, despite anything else, and it doesn't mean you're bypassing and not, if someone will hurt you or whatever, there's work to do there. But in that frequency of gratitude and acceptance, that is what you're saying is where you start creating from. So that's the first work, is what you're really saying. How do you get there?
Yes, like it's really for me, like maybe your parents were not there, absent, did not give you anything, but for sure they give you one thing, it's your life.
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
can already start with that, and accepting the gift of life, you will attract more success and more abundance. And
Mm.
I mean, if you want, I can give you an example with a famous, like person.
Yeah.
It's Steve Jobs. I
Okay.
mean, everyone knows Steve Jobs, or at least you have one of his computers for sure.
Yes.
um, Long story short, that man was adopted. His parents, gave him up for adoption. And what I found fascinating in regard to his story is the company that he created. At some point, I think it was in his 30s, or early 40s, he got fired from his own company.
Yeah.
And the board, also fired him. So the mother and the father fired him, like they
Yes.
gave up
Gave
on
him
him.
away. Yeah.
That's the exact same thing here. That's the same pattern. They
Wow.
gave up on me. And then, of course, as a matter of fact, he came back to save, the company, which I found also very interesting. But just to give you an example here to understand how it can work, like on an
Yes.
invisible level.
Yes, subconscious patterning. So fascinating and interesting. Now, I know when I had a session with you, a big focus of ours was on money, because I have a I have a lot around money. Hence, this is, my life's work is around doing this healing. And I come from the place of the wounded healer, in that I've had all the wounds and I'm still working through many of them. I'd love to hear your interpretation of money and through the lens of family constellations. Yeah.
So money is basically the flow of life. It's giving and receiving. And so again, if it's hard for you to make money, if it's hard for you to keep money, or if you keep losing money by trusting others, like investing in others, like, I mean, honestly, like, look at your story behind you. What happened?
Mm.
Because again, maybe it's a story about your grandfather with his partner, like, and the partner stole the entire money, like, or I don't know, the account, bank account got freezed. I don't know, what happened, but money is really just an exchange, a flow of life. And
Mhm.
it's that balance between giving and receiving. Giving is easy. You know what? Like, there is no ability, like you can control, like no problem at all. But in order to make money, you need also to accept to receive, accept that you're good at your job,
Mhm.
that your talent, like is valued by others. You have to see yourself, as a great contributor, like to the collective.
Mhm.
You have to understand, that it's also the feminine and masculine, because the masculine gives, the feminine receives. So especially as a woman, I do think it's more a woman's patterns than a man, because we are
Mhm.
just raised differently,
Mhm.
like give, and more like receive. But even as a woman, I do know that most of the time we ask less for actually, what we should deserve, like
Yes.
how many years, like, and again, skills, talents, and everything. So at that moment, I would say pause for a minute and just ask yourself, why am I dismissing? Am I minimizing, like my role? Is it because, oh, I'm a mother? So you know what? Maybe, I should not, ask for more, like, or what is it about, like that I think could be so much more helpful than being like, okay, I'm going to pretend, that I can, like ask for 100K, what actually I feel it's only 50K, like, so money really is, I would say, how you see yourself. And it's like a mirror effect, like,
Mm.
yes. Because even if you spend, like, yeah, let it rain, like, it also means that maybe you don't feel that you can receive and feel safe with money.
Or hold. Yeah. My
Hold.
problem was always I could receive, like I can bring in so
Mhm.
easily, but it goes out just as quickly. And I would really find a hard time holding back from myself. And I was able to trace down, well, there's imprinting obviously through the family, of course, and there's bankruptcies in the family and all of these different things, of course. And that was really fascinating for me to recognize. I almost had to declare bankruptcy. So during the pandemic, live events organization, lost a whole lot of money, all my contracts being pulled for the full year, had a huge overhead, all of the things, and quickly was going into debt that I was getting very nervous. I don't know how I'm going to hold this debt should I declare bankruptcy. I was really considering it. At the same time, someone reached out to me and they were doing a study on something that involved my grandfather, okay? Randomly, like my grandfather's been passed away since I'm 6 years old. This person saw me, saw my last name and said, "Oh my gosh, was this your grandfather?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Could I do an interview with you? Because I'm doing this particular piece on an airplane that my grandfather helped engineer." And this was like in the war. So I get on the phone with this man and he's talking, and now this opens up this whole thing around my grandfather. And now I'm starting to talk to my family about my grandfather, and I find this newspaper article, and the newspaper article is "Genius Inventor Loses Everything, Goes Bankrupt." That's the headline in the newspaper. And it's at the exact time that I am sitting here, genius business entrepreneur, inventor myself in my own right, who's done all of this huge stuff, and I'm facing this massive loss. And I realize, like, oh my gosh, like this is like on repeat, the same, and very public too. And so I, interestingly, and this is what I did, instead of allowing it to happen, I used the energy and I wrote a public article in the national newspaper, and I share the story of my grandfather, and I share my own money trauma story. And then I shared, like, I have financial trauma, but I use the public forum to out myself, but never declared the bankruptcy, like ended up being able to repattern it and use it, but use the frequency of it. And I never ended up having to declare bankruptcy. Slowly after that, once I recognized the pattern, I started doing the work on it, and slowly but surely things started quickly changing. So isn't that really wild?
It's a reconciliation, like in itself. And I mean, you had enough, I guess, healing background, to understand, like, I'm not going to be a victim again. And I'm just going to use, that delicate, situation as actually one of my strengths. And I really think there is always power in recognition. Like, what I am struggling, because maybe your grandfather at some point, like, you don't go bankrupt from day one to day two. Like, it's a process.
100%.
And maybe he could have said, "What? Hold on a minute here. I need help. I
Yeah.
need to receive help. I need to talk to, I don't know, a bank, like, or my investors, like,"
Exactly.
but he did not. And that's what actually caused the bankruptcy. You, in the opposite, you're like, "You know what? It's challenging, but I'm sure I'm not the only one." And so your authenticity, bravery, being like, "You know what? This is me right now, and I'm struggling, but I think I can also just, like a phoenix, like, find another way of doing my business." It healed the entire situation and dynamic.
And it's so powerful. And obviously, with my Scorpio moon, I definitely attach that Phoenix rising for
That's true.
sure. But it's so true what you just said, that our power comes from the authenticity, from recognition of the pattern, and then taking ownership and saying, okay, I see it. I see the energy, I see the pattern, and I choose something different. And that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, you will never regret to be honest with who you are.
It's so, so
Never.
true. I love that so much. This podcast is brought to you by Mindfulness and Money. Mindfulness and Money is our new annual membership program designed to meet you where you are at and thoughtfully help you heal your issues with money. Join Asil Albaba, our in-house financial therapist, and myself, Rhiannon Roseland, as we help you uncover all the deep-seated blocks that are preventing you from living your most authentic, powerful expression with money. and out in the world. So if you're interested in joining, you can go ahead to consciouseconomics.ca and click on Mindfulness and Money to find out how to sign up. There's also a free trial option for those of you that want to dip your toe in before making a commitment for the year. The program is designed to be a democratized access for financial coaching and financial therapy. We have some very accessible pricing for you with options within as well, so that you can make your own conscious decision what you are able to afford as you start this healing journey. We hope to see you there. Now, with all of this that we're speaking about right now and coming back to this particular time on the planet, which is incredibly challenging, how can people use family constellations to address what is happening at large in the collective? Just from your own words, from your own opinion, how does that work?
Well, I think when you stop being angry at your family, at your past, you become a better human being. So your impact on others will be just beautiful. I mean, if you on your own you're happy, your partner is going to be happy, your children are going to be happy, your friends, like, and then this for me, it's our power as a collective. Like it just takes one person, like to change maybe the entire mood of a room, being like, hey, how are you? Like all smiling and everything. So I do feel and I truly believe that investing in yourself, understanding yourself, healing yourself is a gift not only for you, but for the collective. Because so many people are still angry and blaming and complaining and not taking ownership, not being responsible. And I mean, you can see it on social media, like sometimes I read comments and I'm like, how miserable you are, like I'm sorry, but you
It
must be in so
is.
much pain to insult, like to create that hate. And I refuse to be part of that world, like I want to be in the solution world, in the positive one, where I'm not perfect, not at all, but at least I'm doing my best, like to be at peace with who I am, with what I'm
Yes.
doing, with
Yes.
everything that I've been through, because we all go through things. We all do.
100%.
But
Yeah.
I refuse to use my story as an excuse of being a jerk. Like it's not because, for example, my father was emotionally unavailable that I'm going to be emotionally unavailable, for my friends.
Yeah.
And it's not because my mother was an addict that I'm going to be an addict. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
otherwise it's just endless, like, and you never grow, like
Well, and then none of us do. And then the collective just remains in this perpetual cycle.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, so his story of a world, showed us how powerful it can be detrimental, like for the collective, like when we are not at peace, when we are not at ease, and when we don't know who we are.
Yes. 100%. I mean, even, our philosophy at conscious economics is really that this value system that we currently witness right now was created by the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind that is just playing out these patterns and these stories and these traumas on repeat. And what I see even right now, because, the war frequency is one that we feel so deeply right now, that war frequency. And that war frequency has been seeded on this planet for, millennia. But it's showing up not just in the physical manifestation of war, it's showing up in people warring to try and stop war, like warring against war. And it's everywhere in our language: war on drugs, war on cancer, and warring against each other. And Albert Einstein said the same mind that created the problem cannot create the solution. So this is exactly why conscious economics, it's through the consciousness and the personal evolution that we start with first, that we then are able to architect a new system. And we cannot architect that system without first doing the internal work, as within, so without, as above, so below. So these teachings are all around us, but we've forgotten, and the unconscious mind and the ego, and you said something like so powerful earlier, and then said, I know it sounds kind of simple or cheesy, like just to want peace or just to, but it's not. It's the simple teachings that we are going, oh, it's too easy that is, that just to drink water and ground and do your family healing could change the world, quite
Yes,
literally. But we're not trying that. Instead, we're trying these, 100-page policies and all of these. And it's like, but it's so hard. And so, of course, we just shut down. But the simplest is always the truth. Like, truth is always simple, I find. And truth is always quiet. It's not loud.
I so agree with you. I could not have said it better. Simplicity for me is everything. We
Yes.
overcomplicate things.
Yes.
We overconsume. We oversay, like we don't even think anymore. We just like, vomit, like everything, that in our mind. There is no more deep conversations, like, and I mean, even in my healing field, sometimes I hear things, I'm like, what? This is so complicated. Just go
Yes.
back to the basics. Go back right there. Say, I love you. I am sorry. Like, yes, thank you. How are you? Like just simplicity will save us. We just overcomplicate things anytime, like we have too many options, too many choices. And
It's
again, we
endless.
are
And
putting
it's part of it, I think. It's part of that collective confusion. Like if we just think about the collective, I love thinking about this lately, that all of us are just neurons in a collective brain.
Mhm.
So we know that, in our own mind, in our own brain, healing doesn't start by the whole brain is all of a sudden thinking differently. You go into a specific trauma or pattern and you start to build coherence in that small part. And then that small part leads to another part that you then tackle coherence, coherent, coherent. So, those of us that are doing the work right now, even though it feels like, oh, well, how is my little self going to impact it at large? It actually does, because as you're starting to build that frequency of coherence in you, you are one of the mighty neurons in that collective brain. And as that starts to resonate and you attract more, we can tip the balance. And it is so possible. And I hold it so deep in my heart. I know it. I know it's possible. I know we are capable of so much. And I believe in us. I believe in humanity. I do. And we
We have
have to.
we own it to our children. We own it to the new generation. I'm not a mom yet. You are a mom, but I have a nephew, and
Mm-hmm.
my niece is soon coming, entering the world. Like,
Mm.
and just for them, like we own it to them.
Yes, we
We have to,
do.
no
Yes,
matter
we
what.
do. Yes. And honestly, just to say too, because this is something that I really believe, you are a mom as well, because you are mothering your community. You are mothering in all the ways that you show up, because it's that divine love and it's the divine mother frequency that you work with. And I feel that with you in helping people and connecting people and showing. And a mother's love is not always to say, oh, it's fine, eat all the candy and stay up all night. It's like, no, sometimes we have to see some of the hard things, gently hold the mirror, gently guide. And I just see that frequency in you so much. So I honor the mother in you and the way that you're thinking about the generations that are to come. And I feel very, very deeply in resonance with that. I'd love to skip over, because I've been having so much fun following your social media. And I've been like commenting, like, I'm obsessed with this. This is so fun, because you've been doing just some analysis through the lens of family constellation with some public figures that have shared their story openly, so that you are not, making anything up here. They've shared their story and you're able to look through the lens of family constellations. So would you be open to sharing one or two examples so we can really see the work in action?
Thank you. Yeah, I started writing, on the celebrity stories because I was like, oh, that's a nice way actually of people to understand how
Yes.
family constellation can help you and how it works. So the first one was actually Britney Spears. She published her first book, I think at the beginning of the year. And I was
Yes.
curious about it just to read, about it.
Oh, I read it in 2 seconds. I was like devoured it. Yeah, because she's such a huge iconic imprint of our generation and all of
Yes,
it.
yes,
Yes. Yeah.
definitely, like, and so seeing her, suffering so much, like with all of the different stories. And so in her book, she shared about the story of her grandmother,
Hmm.
her father's mother. Okay, so it's on
Yes.
the maternal side. Her grandmother was actually in a psychiatric facility for depression and mental issues, and she committed suicide. So her dad lost her mom at a very young age.
Hmm.
And I was like, how interesting it is that we don't really know what happened, between her dad and Britney, like, but Britney Spears went as well, like in a facility helping her, So my question was like, was her father afraid, truly afraid for his daughter, like to commit suicide like his mom
Right.
did? Or
Right.
was it actually a way of controlling his daughter and it went too far?
Mhm.
But I was like, here is the story repeating itself, like
Yes.
basically.
Mhm.
And Britney Spears being more vocal, I would say, about her rights, and etc.
Yes.
And I think in a way she was trying to find a voice not only for her, but also probably, like for her grandmother.
Yeah.
And the other one, I mean, I'm probably sure everyone knows the Kardashian.
Mhm.
I mean, you might at some point have heard about them, and I've always been fascinating about the masculine being absent.
Mhm.
Like it's only the feminine, but the toxic part of the feminine, the
Mm.
over controlling, like more like using men as an object, like just to
Mm.
have babies, but then not being able actually to create a beautiful relationship, to
Mm.
lean on the masculine. And so for me, they really took over, the masculine. And my question was like, what happened? When did a woman in their family system maybe feel betrayed?
Mm.
Like maybe, like a man could not, like stand up, like and take care of his family.
Mm.
And so for me, this was also something very interesting, especially right now, since the 80s, a shift happened, between the feminine and masculine, like
Yeah.
finally, women ask for more, like more control over our sexuality, with birth control pills, for example, having a career, making money, like a vote and everything, abortion rights. And in a way, they represented actually that new generation. And I was born in the 80s, so I also completely identify about it, being scared of the masculine, becoming the masculine, getting rid of my feminine, like just to think like I'm going to be seen, like, but then unfortunately, it has some limitations. Because
100%.
at the end of the day, I am still a woman and actually still want to receive from a healthy masculine man, like
Mhm.
representing that. So I found it very interesting as well for our own generation to finally make peace. And I think one of them just got married and she seems very happy. Of course, now we don't know, but she on her own, I think, reconciling actually the masculine and feminine, like I can
Mm.
welcome a man that is basically taking care of me.
Mhm. So interesting because even their one sibling that's the brother is not around.
Yes,
Like, even that. It's so
yes.
interesting. I find it so fascinating, and I do think it's really helpful for people to understand through these examples that we're so familiar with, just to see the patterning and how it shows up. So it's fascinating. My other question for you, and this is more like personal to you, and I know we're still just getting to know each other, but I enjoy spending time and your energy so much. And one of the things that I witness in you is that you do feel that you have found a way to really honor your sacred feminine. I find you are working with your feminine frequency really beautifully and it really comes through. And I too, born in the 80s, grown up in that time where it was like women in the power suit and like women becoming the man and all of those things. And I think that I definitely went out of balance and still have a hard time staying more comfortable in my masculine expression as opposed to my feminine. So I wonder, in your work personally, what do you do in order to show up in this beautiful way that feels quite balanced and gorgeous?
Well, thank you so much because it has been a journey to rebalance my feminine energy. I mean, I was raised by a businesswoman. My mother was a businesswoman. She always told me never depend on a man. My daughter, make your own money, which I'm forever grateful
Hmm.
because in a way, I think she was and she still is actually absolutely right, like to be independent. But the thing is, I took it on a level that then it became my own jail because it had an impact on my relationship with men. And I suffered a lot from it. Because, of course, in order to feel that empowered woman, toxic feminine, you are also going to manifest weak men, no matter what. And so I got tired of that. I really, really got tired. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to pretend, like to be a man, like I don't want that
Mhm.
anymore. Like I really want
Mm.
to welcome my feminine side, like and receive more. Because
Yes.
when a woman, and I was, in his her more masculine energy, we force things, like we take, like we're like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
fight, I'm gonna hustle, like, but at the end, I became depleted.
Mhm.
And that's actually happened in New York in 2020.
Mm.
I was getting so tired, like of constantly, like hustling and hustling. And I was like, let me go back to Miami.
Mm.
Because no
Mm.
matter what, I think Miami, Florida has a very feminine energy,
Yeah,
like
softer.
chill, soften and everything. And I started, taking time, chill,
Mm.
just being like in a pose, on a walk at the beach, like, and at that moment, I started making more money
Mm.
by doing less than I was working 80 hours per week in New York. And
Wow.
I was like, what?
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I think I discovered, I figure out something here, like, because
Mhm.
I was not, like forcing anything anymore, but I was finally opening my heart, like, and being
Mm.
in my feminine. So, yes, now I am really, into my boundaries, like
Mm.
taking care of the woman, like how I want to feel. And my girlfriends have always been the most important thing for me, like, and I love the sisterhood and womanhood. And
Mhm.
I think when you give yourself permission to just be, this is who I am. You know what?
Yeah.
This is who I am, and I am enough. I mean, this has been life changing for me.
I love it and I see it on you and I feel it radiating. Like I can tell that that work is being done when I'm around you. So thank you for opening up and sharing that. I really, really honor it. I'm definitely on that journey right now myself. I think all of us are. Like all of us in a feminine body right now are starting to do this reclamation work around, wait a second, we were sold a particular story of like we could have it all and all of this, but what did we give up in order to try to fit into that? And is it really what we want? And the answer for me was no, like it's not. And it's such a deep process because the neural pathway is to do and make and, yeah, will it to be as opposed to being in divine flow and knowing that like whatever's meant for you will never pass you by. And just that ease of, operating through the world that way and just being able to trust and to lean in and to receive is huge. I mean, huge.
As a feminine, as a woman, we are actually on the receiving side.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
we
we're
forget,
supposed to be. Yeah, no
we
kidding.
the men give, women receive.
Yeah.
And we forget about that, And actually, I'm going to give you a tips. The more your man is going to give you and you just receive, you surrender, like to his help, his support, the more your man is going to feel like, oh, wow, like I am important, I am useful. And
Yeah.
he's going to help you more.
Yeah.
There
So
is
true.
nothing more detrimental for a man to feel useless
Mhm.
in a relationship, in a couple. Try it. Give it a try and let me know. Text
I
me,
am
text me.
going to try it today.
More you let your man, not leading in a way of macho alpha male. I'm
No,
not saying
no.
that, but he's a king and I'm a queen and I'm just receiving from him, like I let him support me. Oh my God, it's going to change everything in your
I
couple.
can't wait. I love it. I'm so excited to try it out. So, as we wrap up here, Marine, and thank you so much, I do just want to plug that you are involved in our Mindfulness and Money program as one of our incredible experts. So, for those of you that want to check that out, that's available on our website. But for those that want to go deeper with you, where can people find you and how does it work? Like, what can they expect?
So you can find me on my website, marinesélénée.com, also on Instagram, like I also have a book if you would like, maybe it could be a good introduction to my work,
Yes.
Connecting Fates, Separate Destinies. It's on Amazon or any other platforms. Basically, we will do an initial session of 2 hours where I will be asking you a lot of questions about your family, what you would like to work on, and then you will receive your first constellation with me. And of course, if you would like to deepen, like that healing, with me, then I offer mentorship packages. I also do workshops in LA, San Diego, and New York. Hopefully, maybe one with you soon, as we have
Yes, we're
briefly
manifesting it.
talked
Yeah,
about it. Like I think it could be great maybe to do something around money, like in the economic, and
I'd
everything.
love to. Yeah.
But yeah, and of course Instagram, like Marine Sélénée as well.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. This has been fascinating, so interesting. So, yeah, I just honor it and I honor our sisterhood that's forming. I feel it. I'm excited for how it continues to blossom. And thank you.
Thank you so much.
What did you think of that? I am obsessed. I'm obsessed with Marine. I love the work that she does. So much fun. If you want to check her out, I highly suggest going to her website, which is Marine Sélénée. You can also check out her book and buy it right off of her website and book a session with her. I had my own personal sessions, which we referenced in the show. And I found it so, so fascinating. And I'm someone who's been doing a lot of work for a long time. And I took away so much from the modality. So I highly, highly recommend. And like I said in the beginning of this episode, I'm manifesting that we do more with Marine, hopefully having her here in Canada and being able to work with her more deeply. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you can, go to consciouseconomics.ca, subscribe if you want to follow along on the journey. Mindfulness and Money is out and available now, as always. And if you're in town and local, March 28th, the Heartwork event is somewhere we would like to see you. Hope you all stay well and see you again in a couple of weeks.